Hello and welcome. This is your host, author, and international speaker, Beverly Fells Jones. Each episode, we will discuss how to expand your world of thought, explore the world of positive thinking, law of attraction, and consciousness from many points of view. I truly believe that you have been given the power to create the life that you desire. Therefore, it is my intention to share with you information and guests that will enlighten and empower you in your life. I'm here to encourage you to think in the positive and show that miracles can happen. So let's get started. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. This is Beverly Fells Jones, the Silver Fox of Consciousness, coming to you today. I tell you, we've been experiencing some major storms here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. I've lost multiple limbs off of trees, and the what I want to say, the allergens are out, so my sinuses are stuffy. But let me not go on. But it did drop the temperature in the middle of June. It's 60 some degrees. That's a Pittsburgh weather for me. You know, many things happen to us in our lives, and we sometimes try to figure out exactly why things are the way they are. So one of the things that I've been noticing about myself is that I have not been concentrating on the things that I need to do. I become easily distracted. How many of you have found at times you become easily distracted and being able to pay attention and hone in on the things that you need to do becomes a struggle. It becomes such a struggle that you really have to say to yourself, I'm going to do this right now. Now, this may not be something that you do, but a while back I found a sale at one of my favorite stores, and the dress style, let me tell you, it reminded me of when I was, well, in my low 20s, right? High teens, low 20s. And as many of you know, styles come back. They may be modified, but a lot of the styles from when my younger years have come back. And this dress reminded me of it. The only problem with the dress, now I was at the outlet of this store, the zipper was bad. And so I said, well, I can replace a zipper. I think many times I've talked to the fact that I used to sew all of my own clothes. So replacing a zipper should be fairly simple. Well, several years later, I go find the dress. Can't find the zipper in the foot that I had with it, but I found the dress. It is now too big in a sense for me because I've lost weight. However, the dress is still awesome. I see where I can take it in if necessary, but I still have to put the zipper in, right? Years. And it's been sitting there because I just didn't want to sit down and do the work. Have you ever done that? Just didn't want to sit down and do the work. And so yesterday, I really had to say, take the dress out, find a zipper. I did. And I pinned in one side of the zipper and I said, I don't feel like pulling out the sewing machine. What is that? What is that feeling that you know that when the job is done, it's going to be something that you're really going to like and be proud of, but you're just too darn lazy to go get it done. For me, that translates to a lack of concentration. Now, this week, I'm not going to do the meditation up front, but you know what you need to do. if you want to relax while I'm talking, you just take some deep breaths and just relax yourself. If you've been listening to this podcast, you know what it takes. You know what to say to yourself. You know what to do in order to relax your body. Anyway, so here is today's lesson. So I'm getting ready to launch the Think and Grow Rich Mastermind in July. And if you're interested in the Think and Grow Rich Mastermind, just go to tiny, like little, tinyurl.com Think Rich 2019. It'll take you to my Eventbrite page. Just scroll down and you'll find the Think and Grow Rich class. Now, if you're listening to this after that, don't worry. My plan is that I will be offering this multiple times a year. So just get on the schedule, you know, kind of thing. Or just go to Commanding Your Life and join my newsletter, which I only send out about once a month right now. And right now I'm late for the one for this month, so I've got to get it out. And it will give you the information about any classes, seminars that I'll be doing. So think and grow rich. And I'm thinking about what is it that's stopping me from completing that task? There's other tasks that I want to do. I want to get back to my hobby. Sewing was one of them. Quilting is another. Hand painting on silk is another. I love it when I'm in the middle of it. I love it when I'm out in the garden and I'm working on things. But sometimes, and I know many of you can relate, it's like, okay, I'm going to go and I'm going to do this. And I've talked before about my 10-minute projects, like putting in that one side of the zipper, pinning it in. That's kind of like a 10, well, it was like a 15, 20-minute project. But I go, 10-minute project. I can get that started. I can do it. And a lot of times, once we get ourselves started in the project, we continue with it. Except I didn't yesterday. I didn't pull out the sewing machine, which I hope to do today. Anyway, getting off a track. That was just an example because once I started putting in that zipper, I got that feeling again that I had when I was making my clothes and the satisfaction of solving a problem because this zipper is kind of like a hidden zipper and one side there's a lining in this dress. Yeah, you don't find clothes with lining much anymore, but it was solving a problem and I was concentrating on that one piece. So, in Think and Grow Rich, the book, there is chapter 9. Chapter 9 is called Persistence. And persistence, as Napoleon Hill says, is an essential factor in the procedure of transmuting desire into its monetary equivalent. Okay. Persistence is an essential factor. The basis of persistence is the power of will. Now, I kind of agree with him, but, sometimes, willpower, people say it takes willpower to lose weight. It takes willpower to start doing your exercises on a regular basis. It takes willpower, right? And, Napoleon Hill is right. And he said, that willpower and desire, because, one of the things we've talked about is a desire to have something done. When properly combined, make an irresistible pair. And I agree with that. And it takes persistence. But I also have figured out that it's not only just persistence. I mean, persistence is you keep following through on the things you need to do and you do that. But I can follow through on putting on my zipper right, but I didn't. Persistence would have been, getting the sewing machine out and actually sewing at least one side of the zipper. And I know once I would have sewn the one side of the zipper, I would have gotten the other side done, right? In fact, I'm looking at the dress now, saying, you're going to get that done today. But there's something to me that's missing in this whole thing. And what's missing is the power of concentration. And there's several books that I've read, and I've told you before, I deal with the early 1900s, the 1910s, the 1920s. Well, this book, and there's another one too, um, it's called The Power of Concentration by Theron Q. Dumont. Copyright 1918. And that's the name of the book, The Power of Concentration. And he gives you, now, 20 lessons, 20 different things on concentration. Well, just looking at 20 different things kind of wore me out, right? But there's another book. Ready? Okay, so this one is The Power of Concentration, written in 1918. The other one is called The Master Key System. And the Master Key System is one of those that I looked at and I was like, oh, I went through it. I was going through my Legal Shield training. I'm a Legal Shield associate, and I was going through my Legal Shield training, and the gentleman said, you got to read the Master Key System. Well, I had. And I just, no. It was like, are you kidding me? Um, no. Um, I read it. It was like, I'm not getting this. And then he said to us that it was a home study course at when it first came out, and you're to use one chapter at a time. I went, oh, and I went back and I started doing one chapter at a time. And around, I think chapter 6, 7, around 6, 7, or 8, one of those, it started talking about concentration. But he gave you an exercise that was interesting. And it was going to teach you concentration in such a way that you could learn to concentrate during your meditations. And what it was get a picture of a person. Well, when I did this chapter, I happened to be in a hotel room because I was on a business trip. And all I had, and don't laugh, was a bottle of wine. And so I concentrated on the label. So I spent about 5 minutes studying that label. Now, that's a long time to look at a label. It's a long time to look at a picture. But I studied it, and I said, well, I don't want to look at all the words. Let's look at the picture on here. And let me study the picture and how the picture is. And once you studied that, then what you had to do was sit down, because at the end of each chapter, you had to do a meditation. And so you sat there in your chair and you recreated that picture in your mind. You had to recreate it like it was a picture, right? Not an abstract, but concentrating on that picture. You get what I'm picturing for you, showing you, or talking about, is the fact that you were concentrating on that picture, understanding each and every detail. Maybe I can talk about the person you fell in love with. You knew their face. I mean, you knew every curve, what the eyes look like when they smile. You could close your eyes and see that person in your mind. Well, this picture was supposed to do that. And each time, the next week, it was a little bit more. But it was teaching you how to concentrate. But not only that, because I've talked in the past about when you are concentrating or there's something you want to bring into your life or create into your life, you need to be able to visualize that thing in your life that you wanted. What was it going to look like when you got what you wanted? Can you sit there and have that dream, that look, that feeling, that whole thing? But you're able to sit in that meditative state and concentrate on the thing that you want the most. Think and Grow Rich, I learned persistence and desire. But in that whole book, he doesn't really discuss concentration. Because if you're not able to concentrate on what you're doing, of what you want, or when you're in meditation, in your visualization, there is a lack there. So in this book, The Power of Concentration by Theron Q. Dumont. Sounds like, he sounds really like he's French, right? I'm just looking at chapter 2, right? Chapter 1's introductory, but chapter 2, he talks about man from a psychological standpoint of development is not what he should be. Because what he talks about is that man has not self-mastered the power of concentration. A lot of our children are not learning. It's like sit down and be quiet. And, they took out recess. So kids were fidgety and so they want to drug them. And, we don't want that. What we want to do is teach our kids how to get so absorbed in an activity that everything around them dissipates. And the same thing for you. If you're reading that book, you've been reading a book, and oh, let me tell you, a friend of mine out of Pittsburgh, her name is Audrey-Snyder, S-N-Y-D-E-R. She wrote a book called The Organization. It's the first of 3 in the series. You got to buy it. You've got to buy it. Hopefully I'll put the link in the description below. But I started reading that book on my trip to the Dominican Republic recently. And I started it at the airport and I read it on the plane. And the next day, I went out to the beach with my family. My son got married. With my family and his friends, and we in the shade, and it was on my phone, and I just read it a day and a half. Within 36 hours, I was done with that book. I felt myself in that book. I saw myself in the situation. I saw myself in the location. Concentration into that book. It got my attention. But many times there are things that don't get our attention like that, right? Like doing laundry or having to go mow the lawn and the edge and, chores that you need to do. I need to go out because like I told you, we had a storm and I'm still picking up branches out of my yard and another storm came through last night. So today I've got to go out and take care of that. Those things are not things we really want to concentrate on. In fact, we want distractions, right? But you've got to learn to figure out a way to balance and train yourself to deal with this. And you have to self-master yourself in this. Now, most of the time, we're not trained in concentration. Things just happen. We're untrained. Things just, we think what they say, 60,000 or 70,000 thoughts a day, and most of them are negative. We have to train ourselves to be positive. We've got to train ourselves as dealing with our emotions and dealing with the things that are going on in our lives. Right? If we don't know how to deal with our habits or change our habits, he says we deal from a lack of regulation, and the procedure of mental concentration is not good. And he refers to the mind as being weak. I don't like calling it being weak. It's just that you haven't been trained, or you haven't trained yourself how to bring in concentration on things. It's like when I'm learning things. When I was first learning hand painting on silk, it was like I got the books and I read and I experimented and messed up a lot of silk, and I just played with different techniques, and and I learned. But I was concentrated. It was like every opportunity I had. When I went camping, I took all my silk paints and silk and dyes and things, and I was out in the campground dyeing silk. I was mastering the techniques. I was concentrating on the things that I needed to learn. What are you doing? The technique I talked about that came from the master key system of studying a picture and then sitting down and doing it. And you can do that with if you want to learn a poem. Learning poetry is not my thing. I figure I can read it, I can do that, right? But if you want to learn a poem so you can quote it to some friends, then concentrate. Put your mind to it. Learn a stanza at a time. A monologue. Many people learn monologues from Shakespeare's plays. People learn music. I mean, you got songs out there, and the song comes on and you can sing the whole thing. But you weren't concentrating on it. It was because the music was there, and it was repetition. And sometimes concentration requires repetition. So when he talks about the self-guiding faculties are weak in development, all right, and a person lacks the power of concentration, he said there's three reasons why you may not. One was deficiency of the motor centers, right? So you had some physical issues. Two, an impulsive and emotional mind. You're never just, it's always going from one place to the other. But number three, which I think all of us fall into, is an untrained mind. And you can change that through systematic practice. You can naturally train yourself to be able to concentrate. Now, he does warn of the fact, now remember, this is 1918. He says, it is impossible to concentrate when you are in any of those three states, right? Or, any of these excited states, which is anger, passion, excitement, hatred, intense emotions. You're angry, you just are flighty. You can't concentrate. So you want to decrease those when you want to be able to concentrate. And he said they can be naturally decreased by avoiding such food and drinks as have nerve weakening or stimulating influences, like coffee, right, with a lot of caffeine, or highly caffeinated drinks, or alcohol or drugs. You want to kind of lay away from there. So he says it's a good practice to watch and associate with those people who are steady, calm, controlled, and conservative. Now, when they're talking conservative here, it's like, you're slow and you're steady, you make good decisions, right? Now, as he said, correcting the deficiency of motor centers is harder because as the person's brain is undeveloped, he lacks willpower. There's that willpower thing again, right? That Napoleon Hill kind of talked about. Yes. All right. But you can develop it. Now, one of the things you want to be is in a positive state when you're concentrating because you don't want to be there, and it's a form of meditation when you are concentrating because your mind, it kind of reminds me of a laser beam. You are laser focused on what you want to do, and you want to increase that and be able to be there for long periods of time. So you may only be able to concentrate for 2 to 3 minutes initially, but then you center your mind on what you want, no matter what it is, and you want to take away any negatives from it. And it with concentration, it just means that you have the strength of mind to do that. But also, concentration comes from interest. When you're truly interested in something, you can concentrate. It's like guys, even gals, playing basketball or some sports. They can be out on the court, or they could be um, snow sledding, or you know, uh, what is it, surfing, or rollerblading, or playing golf. But they could do it for hours and hours, and they're working on the way. Golf. I know, kind of working on my swing, and do I have my arms in the right place, and is my feet pointed in the right direction, and am I not twisting my shoulder? You're working on all these things, and you're concentrating on getting better. But you don't want to be aimless. You don't want to work aimlessly. You don't want to think about nonsense. You don't want to talk and act aimlessly. You don't want to just, there's times for that. You're at a party and you're just doing some things. But in your life, if you want to move forward, get ahead, then concentrating on what you want is good. So when you say, I want to, I can, I will, it's the beginning of concentrating on what you want. What you think about and do most of the time influences your life. So if you want to look at, I call them the sensational rags of the world, and the gossip magazines and gossip articles, and stuff that is not going to help you emotionally, mentally, in the person that you want to be, it will weaken your power of concentration. You will not be able to guide yourself to success. So concentration can be developed by paying attention to yourself, watching yourself, developing the things that will allow you to have concentration. Remove those things that are a distraction for you. You don't want that. So pay attention so that you are able to move forward in your life. Concentration. You cannot direct your thoughts, your plans, your resolutions, your visualization does not work if you cannot learn to concentrate in the things you do every day in your life, or when you're in meditation and you are visualizing what you want your life to be like each and every day. I hope this information was very helpful to you. Again, I want you to join me for Think and Grow Rich Mastermind. It's a 10-week class. It's $249, which is very inexpensive in this day. In fact, the next class, the price is going to $499. And you go, why? It's because each time I teach this class, I learn a little bit more. You just got a little piece of a new and added piece I'm going to be adding to the class. And I'm going to teach more about how to concentrate. And in my classes, I have meditations that help reinforce the information we learn in class. So thank you again. Don't forget to like, share, let people know about the podcast, and be sure to send me a note or an email if you have any questions about this. Thank you for listening today. Please share the link to this show with your friends and family so that they can learn how to be the best that they can be. Visit my website at commandingyourlife.com and follow me on Facebook. Have any suggestions for the show? Just contact me by emailing Beverly at commandingyourlife.com. Be sure to join me on the next episode. As you have believed, let it be done to you, and it is so.